What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. So the Mean Streets of Gadgetzan expansion is in full swing and there's a lot of really cool and powerful decks that are pretty viable right now. Still though, some of these decks can be a little bit difficult for newer players to build since they've maybe got a lot of expensive legendaries or maybe just too many adventure cards, but you don't have to break your bank to be competitive in the latter format. So today we're taking a look at some of the cheaper decks that can still definitely do really well on the ladder, and also how to potentially even make those decks even more budgeted if you're just totally a free-to-play player or just have nothing to work with. So let's jump right into it. So the first deck we're taking a look at is Zoo Warlock, and we've got a sample list by TheKamshHS. You know, it's going to be the tried and true budget aggro deck that new players have picked up and climbed with since the beta, really. Now, Zoo definitely isn't as good in the current meta as it has been at some points in the past, but people are definitely still hitting legend with Zoo Warlock deck lists right now, and the deck still has quite a lot of powerful tools. So most Zoo lists in the current meta are going to run you about 1200 dust depending on some of your tech choices, but unfortunately they do require some cards from pretty much all three adventures. Now, unfortunately, with Zoo Warlock in specific, it's a little bit difficult to budgetize the deck any further since the rares like Doomguard, Knife Juggler, Defender of Argus are really essential to the deck, and the adventure cards are also really strong. While I guess in theory, if you were looking for it, you could potentially cut the cards from the adventures and replace them with just some more aggressive minions at the same mana cost spot on the curve. But the thing is that at that point, Zoo already isn't necessarily the strongest budget deck in terms of actual win rates, so it's probably better for you to just play a different deck altogether if you can't get the best version of budget Zoo. Either way though, it's going to be a great deck for players who like optimizing on board interactions, or maybe are very good or want to get good at minion positioning and enjoy dumping their hand with some aggressive playstyles to try and win early. So if either of those sound like it might be you, maybe consider playing Zoo Warlock. Next up, we're taking a look at Tempo Mage, and we've got a sample list from Jab LOL, which is another very solid aggressive deck that's been around for quite a long time actually. You know, Tempo Mage is in a pretty similar situation to Zoo right now, where it's maybe not quite as strong as it used to be, but it's definitely still a really strong deck, and actually has a pretty reasonable matchup against Pyro Warrior for sure, and it's a deck that some people have definitely used to climb to legend. Now the thing is that the most optimal Tempo Mage lists are generally going to cost around 3,000, maybe even 4,000 dust depending on some of your card choices, but we can actually budgetize it quite a lot. Things like Greater Arcane Missiles, Ragnaros the Firelord, and all sorts of other late game stuff can actually just be replaced with Water Elementals or some more aggressive cards that are going to make your certain other matchups better. We could also potentially replace Blood Mage Thalnos with either Kobold Geomancer or another Loot Hoarder, and we can actually get the cost overall of the deck to under 1500 dust, making it a great budget option. There is a caveat though, we definitely do not recommend replacing Arcane Blast, since you really need that strong and cheap removal more than ever in this meta. So if you absolutely cannot craft Arcane Blast, it's potentially maybe a little bit better to wait until you can before actually playing the deck. As far as adventures go, this deck only needs cards from Blackrock Mountain and Karazhan, but unfortunately they are a little bit irreplaceable since Flamewaker especially is really important, as well as Firelands, Portal, and Babbling Book being some pretty crucial cards for sure. Tempo Mage might be the best deck for you if you maybe like some very synergized based decks, or maybe are good at knowing when to use Burn for removal or when to use it for face damage, or maybe if you like risking having some really awkward hands for the benefit of potentially having some really insane starts. Moving on, we're talking about Dragon Priest, and we've got a sample list from Show. Now, Dragon Priest is actually quite well positioned in the meta right now, since its early game lets it stand a really good chance against so many aggressive decks, and with things like Bran and Draconid Operative or Bran and Historian, you can definitely grind out the late game with some control decks as well. Now, the dust cost of most Dragon Priest decks is going to be around 2300, although you do need all three adventures. Unfortunately, there's once again not necessarily that much that we can do to budgetize this deck list, since the core of the deck is really quite set in stone, and you definitely need most of the adventure cards since Twilight Whelp, Brand Bronzebeard, and a lot of the Gadgetzan cards are also pretty crucial to the deck. Dragonfire Potion and Twilight Guardian are both really crucial as well, and they make up most of the dust cost of the deck actually. Either way though, Dragon Priest is going to be a great deck for you if you maybe just happen to like dragons, or if you like having some really strong early game without maybe sacrificing too much late game, and if you're careful with your sequencing of plays to make sure you get value out of all of your holding a dragon cards. Next up, we've got Aggro Shaman, which a lot of people consider the non-budget version to be one of, if not the actual best deck in the game right now. And we've got a sample list from Spo. Now, it's definitely a really popular list right now. With the Jade version, you've got Aya Blackpaw. Now, that version actually costs you around 6,000 dust actually, but the thing about Aggro Shaman that makes it so great is we can totally budgetize it quite a lot without really sacrificing all that much power. Now, Aya Blackpaw is definitely a cool addition since it has really good synergy with Jade Claws and Jade Lightning, which are already great aggro cards anyway, but Aya is easily replaced by a Doomhammer or Azure Drake as an alternate finisher. Bloodmage Thanos is also really strong in the deck since you want the spell power to enable stuff, but Kobold Geomancer isn't necessarily all that much of a drop-off actually, although you'll definitely miss the extra card draw. Now, as far as adventures go, you'll need some cards from League of Explorers and Gadgetzan since the deck doesn't play anything from Blackrock Mountain, but you really do need both of those adventures for the really insane early game openers, and this works out to the deck costing somewhere in the 2800 dust range along with adventures, which is definitely more expensive than some of the other decks on this list, but overall this is probably the strongest budget deck that we're taking a look at today in terms of actual ability to climb the ladder. Now, Aggro Shaman's definitely going to be right for you if you can maybe afford the a little bit more expensive cost, you like playing those extremely strong and fast starts, and you're maybe good at deciding when to play for board or when to play for face. And next up, we're taking a look at Pirate Warrior. Now, Pirate Warrior started out as the deck to beat this expansion, although it's declined in the meta a little bit since a lot of people are definitely really expecting it. It's definitely still really strong. Now, as far as the dust cost goes, Pirate Warrior runs a little bit over 4,000 dust, obviously depending on some of your card choices, but there are a ton of budget changes that we can actually make to the deck list. We've got the sample list from Noblord. Now, although Leroy is a really good source of burst damage, we can definitely replace it with maybe a Reckless Rocketeer, an Argent Commander, or honestly even South Sea Captain to get some crazier pirate openers. Now, although you'll definitely want to play Leroy if you have it, you can definitely replace it with either a Reckless Rocketeer, maybe an Argent Commander, honestly even a South Sea Captain to get some crazy pirate openers. Now, obviously you want to play Leroy if you have it, but if you don't, you can easily knock the cost down to under 3,000 dust, and although that is still a little bit expensive, there's actually another cool thing about this list. Now, you only actually need one adventure, League of Explorers, for Finley, and Finley's the only card from Adventures, and you can easily replace Finley for just another alternate one-drop. So we do have a deck on our list today that you really don't need any adventure to play with whatsoever. Now, there's not much we can necessarily do to lower the dust costs from there, since Patches the Pirate is pretty crucial, I want to say, and all the other cards are rares and below. But if you have a little bit of dust and no adventures, this is definitely going to be the deck for you. And really, you can honestly still replace Patches, although it's going to be a big blow to the actual power of the deck. If you have to, though, you could potentially replace him with another one-drop or another charge minion. But if you have Patches or can maybe afford the dust, Pirate Warrior is going to be a great deck to play if you maybe love to go face, you like decks with a lot of synergy, and you're really good at sequencing to get every point of damage that you can, or if you maybe just like super fast games. Either way though, those are some of the budget decks that we recommend playing on the ladder right now. We tried to include something for everyone. We've got a deck with no adventures, we've got a control deck, we've got, all sorts of stuff, hopefully if you're a budget player, you could find at least one deck from this video that you would maybe like to play in the meta. Either way though, definitely let us know which deck was your favorite in the comment section below. And it looks like that's gonna be it for me. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like, subscribe if you want. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.